Welcome to lofty pursuits and public displays of confection. So let's bring some drama to the candy and make chocolate-covered raspberries for Sweet Day.